honestly, I find myself very interesting, so I could entertain myself. Yeah, I'm from Winnipeg and Hamilton and a little bit of Brampton. I'm Manvinder. I go to McMaster University. I'm finishing my second year of my master's program in religious studies. Apart from that, I also work with Ladlia, a nonprofit organization based in Brampton. We do a whole bunch of programming with South Asian girls in the Brampton area. Right now, I also work at the Sikh Research Institute as their webinar coordinators. Last thing that I'll promote is I've just partnered with a lovely med student in BC, Babanjeet Kaur, and we work on this project Asra together. That's really like my passion project and what I hope to continue growing. We call it the Punjabi Alcohol Resource. So it's not a place for uncles to find alcohol, but it's a place for them to reach out for help. How do I balance all of these projects? I don't, essentially, is the short and sweet answer. I think perhaps on social media there's like a facade that's put on that I'm balancing like 8 million things, like look at how many amazing things I'm doing, but it's because I know I need that like external validation. I don't know if I'm okay with that or not. It's not because I'm doing this work because I want someone to be like, wow, you're doing so much work. I just need someone to recognize just the plethora. So Bon Appetit is like a huge magazine, like food magazine, and a lot of their people of color don't get paid for being in the videos, and the white editors do. Like, even when I watched those videos before I knew that, like the brown girls, there's this Bangladeshi girl, Sola, and they just work so hard. Like Sola, straight up, she was just like going above and beyond, and it just seemed like no one was recognizing that, like how hard she works, how passionate she is. So for me, like, I think that's also what I need. I guess the way I balance it is making a lot of lists, sticking to them, having to-do lists, saying no to things now that I can't say yes to, but also making space for things that fuel me. And I like don't leave a lot of space for myself. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Yeah, I've lived here for 22 years, and then I moved to France for a year. And then I came back to Winnipeg for a year to do my honors. When I was doing my honors in religion and culture, I was also applying for grad school. So I got into McMaster University. For the past 2 years, I have been living in Hamilton, Ontario. As soon as I moved to Hamilton, I knew that I wanted some sort of connection with the general Punjabi community in Ontario. Growing up in Winnipeg, predominantly surrounded by white people, I did obviously have my like non-white friends, and that's usually who I gravitated towards, but I never had like a strong Punjabi community, which I definitely missed. I knew of Lagnia, what kind of work they were doing. By chance, they were looking for a social media coordinator, so I would commute into Brampton from Hamilton. I didn't have a car, so it probably took me like an hour and a half to 2 hours. I was like, yeah, like let's see what Brampton's about. Like I want to know what's happening here. I like planned a screening in a Brampton movie theater, which honestly I don't even know which one it was, but I know it's like the Brampton Cineplex. But that is my kind of removed experience. And like, yeah, going to Sikh Heritage Month there. I have like friends in Brampton now. I went to an engagement party in Brampton. And when I went to the engagement party, I like sent a picture of myself to my mom, and she's like, you look like a Brampton girl. And I was like, I don't know what that means, and I don't know if I'm offended, but thank you. I think Brampton has so much potential. I think Brampton is not awarded the public money that it deserves. And I think that comes as a deficit and becomes a deficit to the city. To me, when I drive through it, it just looks like one large suburb, which is ridiculous because all it is like strip malls and then like chunks of houses, strip mall and then chunks of houses. And there's so many lovely people advocating for it. So I think it definitely has potential, but because of the way it's laid out, so many of the systems are inaccessible to people who need them. Busing to Brampton was impossible. I could only go to downtown Brampton if someone wanted me to meet them at Punjabi Community Health Services. I was like, I can't honestly because it takes 3 different buses. I draw my limit at 2. But there's so much happening in Brampton. I wouldn't say I necessarily like it, but I might be gravitating towards that because it's not cool to like Brampton. You know what? We don't need to advocate for this idea that Brampton is cool, we should just do cool things. Like the only thing I know about Six Flags is they don't like Brampton. So like these spaces where they're painting Brampton in a negative light, just kind of flipping that narrative. And I have had lots of negative experiences in Brampton, but I also have had lots of lovely community building, exciting moments in Brampton. Sometimes when people are like, you go to Brampton so often, and they're like, did you move from Winnipeg to Brampton? I'm like, no, I just am frequently there to do some work. So I'm also doing that thing, which I know it's like Brampton people sometimes do, where it's like, oh, are you from Toronto? Or where are you from? And they'll be like, oh, I'm from Toronto. Rep your city. Brampton boy means nothing positive to me. I have no positive connotations with the word Brampton boy. I will describe people who are not from Brampton as Brampton boys. Oh, I do actually identify as a Brampton boy. It's actually boys that I've dated and my current boyfriend have definitely been like, you are a Punjabi fuckboy. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm bad at expressing my feelings and emotions. So yes, I am a Brampton boy, which I accept. And I call myself out on. I went to go get like my palm read randomly in Punjab once, and he was like, oh, you look like a girl, but you have like the persona and the personality and ambitions of a boy. And I was like, oh, thank you. We out here trying. You know what? We're redefining what it means to be a Brampton boy. That's what's happening. Hit the nail on the head. We are all Brampton boys, but we will unlearn. I know some people might describe Brampton as a diverse city, but to me, it's always been used as like a catch-all. Like, let's do a diversity and inclusion workshop. Let's make our curriculum, board of directors more diverse. And to me, when that word is used, diverse actually just means white women. Diversity doesn't include the various types of people that actually live in Canada. To me, diversity is like a blanket term that's used to stop the action of something actually happening. In my entire time at McMaster, I never had a BIPOC prof, let alone a POC prof. And it was just so aggravating having to go to that class every week, reading white men talking about Asian religions. Every week, I would consistently ask that we read a person of color. Something I'm really thinking about is like, why do I always and consistently have to think about diversity, inclusion, and my own race? But there's like this whole huge group of people that never have to engage with that. There would be like some weeks where that was like all I thought about. It was just like I'd read something and I'd be like, this is not inclusive to anyone. I don't want to read this anymore. It's like angering me. And that really hinders me from like doing my work. Unfortunately, I feel like the term anti-racist is now becoming the new diversity and inclusion, and how they're manipulated to actually just continue enacting like white supremacy. My research focuses on alcohol consumption in second-generation Sikh Canadians. This work was mostly born through personal experience. So whenever I would drink, I was literally only binge drinking. This probably continued for like 5 or 6 years, and then I started like losing a lot of my friends. So then I really did like some internal like searching and like talking to myself and like kind of figuring out why I needed to drink like this. And through that journey of like figuring out why I was drinking, learning about the history of drinking in the Punjabi Sikh community, intergenerational trauma played a huge role. Trauma from 47 goes into the trauma of 84, goes into the trauma of having to immigrate, because immigrating from Punjab to Canada is just traumatic in itself. Drawing on my own experiences, but also understanding that they're completely different from like these actual lived experiences of our parents. I was like, I don't want other people who are also engaging with alcohol in this way to never have access to this information. And then going to the Brampton community, like specifically, because there is such a huge concentrated Punjabi population, I think drinking is way more acceptable because everyone is doing it to the same degree and no one is being taught how to properly consume alcohol. Although people say that Brampton is diverse, I don't think many people's friend groups are actually that diverse. So you're kind of just perpetuating this one idea of what drinking is. I've been exposed to that so often in Brampton where like they all just have this one way of thinking, and I'm like, no, you need to be critical of the way you're thinking. You're just still perpetuating what our parents are thinking, but you need to garner these resources that you've been given and kind of question what your parents have taught you. Our parents are brilliant, and that's not to negate their brilliance. It's just to say that parents aren't always right. There's situations that they've never been in. So sorry, I'll try to be quiet. You know what? You fix that.